Dare to enter Crow's Quill's books, where tales of forgotten realms and fearless souls come alive. Today's journey, Operation DarkStar, Chapter 45, by Mark Lindsay. Will you uncover the truth hidden in the shadows? Chapter 45. They stood back to back, the prone body of Paige between them, both men swinging their various weapons in a wild berserker rage. They knew that death was coming, but their loss, pain, and love for those around them pushed them further than humanly possible. Go. Help the others, Jared grunted, bringing his axe down and severing its head. Like fuck, I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together, brother, Tarnay growled in reply. He was attempting to force back 3 demons, using the edge of his club, each swing receiving a satisfying crunch. Jared caught a glance at the rest of the group approaching the Wagner Institute, still fighting their way through monsters and beasts. We're drawing most of the heat. I think they'll make it, Jared said in a cracked voice from years of non-use. He continued to swing his giant-sized axe with practiced ease. There are worse ways to go. Tarnay grinned with a predatory smile. They were now less than 10 feet from the opening of the building. The only thing now standing in their way was a creature the size of a rhino, the head of a rat and teeth, claws and spikes protruding from everywhere. Fuck off. I mean, this place can completely fuck off, Rob complained loudly. Scott raised his rifle and fired, hitting the creature just behind the ear. It didn't appear to do anything, other than make the beast turn and regard them all. There was a long, drawn-out silence, the group now having stopped. Then the beast let out a long, horrific roar. Ah, crap, Sarah hissed, as she emptied an entire magazine of ammunition into the building's sentinel. A split second later, the rest of the team followed her example, their ammunition seemingly having no effect. It roared again, its face framed by 2 fierce-looking tusks. Then it charged towards them. They scattered, realizing that their weapons were having no effect. The rhino creature struck 3 smaller beasts and trampled them under its titanic girth, their squeals muted immediately. Cooper produced a tomahawk, lined up the demon, and threw the bladed weapon. It tumbled through the air, heading dead center towards one of the creature's eyes. The monster twitched at the last moment, and the axe spun harmlessly away, deflected by one of the large, foot-long spikes jutting out from its head. Cooper dived to one side, narrowly missing the creature's opening attack. The beast attempted to stop. However, its size and speed appeared to hinder its ability to maneuver quickly. It skidded violently in the ground as it tried to stop. Scott and Saul started firing into the beast's flank, where it appeared less armored. Black blood oozed from the wounds. However, the damage seemed only minor. The demon rhino shook its massive head and charged again. "Aim for its feet!" Rob screamed, the former ranger already emptying his weapon at the monster's many legs. It screamed in pain, but didn't slow. Its vulnerability meant that it could only be hit from the extreme flank. They all fired blindly, desperate to destroy its mobility. Cooper had retrieved his tomahawk and was preparing a second assault from the creature's right-hand side when it changed course towards the tall former guard. "Look out!" Booth screamed, the former scientist struggling to keep out of the monster's path, with Dr. Gates on his chain proving a hindrance as they ran. Bam Bam could see the damage, and being the closest person, ran to intercept. Cooper either didn't see the danger that he was now in, or was too focused on what he perceived as a strategic kill. His stance remained unaltered. He stared down the creature and carefully tossed the bladed weapon with all his might. It turned in the air with fluid speed. the edge biting into the tender flesh of its left eye and sinking in deep. Half stunned, half marveling at his aim, Cooper was still standing transfixed, as the creature was now only several meters away, when Bam Bam struck the larger man from the side mid-leap, the momentum sending them both rolling to one side. The creature had now collapsed during the charge, its massive bulk sliding across the ground. The others within the group were quick to capitalize on the situation, firing into the monster's now exposed belly as the flesh was obliterated under a hail of bullets. Saul raced to Cooper's and Bam Bam's side, both men still lying in the dirt. "For fuck's sake, that was too close," Saul stammered, rolling Bam Bam over, then seeing the red blood covering his friend. "Sarah," he cried in alarm. The ex-detective attempted to revive Bam Bam, who appeared unresponsive. Sarah was now at his side and checking for wounds. "Is he?" Scott called out, his face pale. Sarah ignored the question, a frown appearing on her face. "I can't find." Her voice trailed off. "What? What?" Saul pressed. She checked his pulse, then scrambled past him to Cooper, the big man also not moving and laying on his stomach. With a grunt, she managed to pull him on his side, gasping at what she saw. 2 large gouges had been plowed from his neck to pelvis, easily 6 inches wide and twice that deep. Exposed entrails and flesh met her gaze, the former corrections officer's eyes wide and unblinking, his breath shallow and quick. Bam Bam stirred, and Saul sighed with relief. "How's the big fella?" Saul asked, his voice going silent as he saw Sarah leaning over Cooper. She was whispering into his ear, the words unheard. Saul could only guess that she was attempting to soothe his final moments. The big man shuddered softly, then gasped as he took his final breath and fell still. She closed his eyes, before going back to Bam Bam. More demon screams ripped through the air. "Grab him and get inside. Time has run out," Scott said. He could see Tarnay and Jared had fallen to the demon horde. They were now gone beneath a blanket of black and glowing eyes. They raced through the building's entrance, passing wide, empty spaces that had previously held industrial steel shutters, long since ripped apart and forgotten. Scott and Rob dragged the figure of Bam Bam inside, Booth and Gates sticking close by, Saul and Sarah covering their immediate vicinity. "Clear," Sarah called out. "Clear," Saul replied, very surprised. Scott had managed to rouse Bam Bam, who was now sitting up. "My God," Booth breathed. They had arrived battered and bruised, running for their lives, losing friends and loved ones in the process. Dr. Booth had worked in this very building over 8 years ago. She knew the people. She knew the layout. She knew what was inside. As her eyes roamed over their immediate area, what she now saw was alien and unrecognizable. The walls were blackened, not just stained, but somehow the darkness of the portals and the world had seeped into the building's very bones. The floors were littered with crushed furniture and charred human bones and skulls. The front foyer led into various parts of the building, which now looked like blackened holes leading into the underworld. Gates started to sputter and whistle, like a demented train, his voice rising by the second, his eyes wide and insane. Saul was looking outside towards where the others had fallen. He turned his gaze towards Gates. "Shut him up, or I will," Saul said with disdain. Booth hissed at the former doctor, jerking his chain like a bad puppy. The former head of the Wagner Institute fell silent immediately. "Where to now?" Sarah asked, eager to complete the mission. "Can we have a moment?" "We just lost Cooper," Rob said. The realization that all of his brothers in arms were now gone, hitting him full force. We also lost Tarne and Axe, Sarah replied angrily. Zeus and Vulcan as well, Scott said grimly. Bam Bam swore bitterly. And Paige, Sarah said, biting back a sob. And that's exactly why we have to press on. Come on, people, can't you feel it? Saul said. They were all silent. The pressure, the deaths, us meeting Booth. Literally days before the end. You know what I'm like. A pragmatist. But I finally believe this is fate and she won't let us squander this opportunity, Saul said firmly. Let's finish this, Bam Bam said, slowly getting to his feet, dried blood on his head, neck, and down the back of his shirt. You good? Saul asked. As good as I'll ever be, Bam Bam replied. Have you still got the start capacitor? Booth asked in alarm. Bam Bam nodded. Good, but no more stupid stunts. If something happens to you, we're fucked, Booth said uncharacteristically. Gates sniggered. Can't promise that. If fate is watching us, then it doesn't matter. What will be, Bam Bam said with a lopsided grin. So now you're a philosopher? Sarah chuckled. No, but Saul's right. This is it, Bam Bam replied. They took the tunnel on the far right, their torchlights picking up the silhouettes of the dead. I can't even imagine the terror they would have gone through, Sarah whispered. The tunnel led out to a large open area. Thick, black, pulsating lumps and veins covered the walls and pillars like a malignant cancer. They seemed to breathe with their own sentient evil. No one said not to. It just seemed like common sense to not touch anything. They weaved their way through the dark labyrinth. There was no movement, no demons or monsters in sight. Anxiety levels were at an all-time high. They were in the den of the beast, with not a demon in sight. Their torch beams crisscrossed in the darkness, a collective gasp when they caught sight of the black meteor in the center of the room. It can't be, Booth whispered in fear. What's the problem? Scott asked. The DarkStar has grown in size, Booth replied. How is that possible? Rob asked. It isn't, Gates said, shocking everyone more than the sight of the actual meteor. They all turned on the chained ex-doctor, who now appeared to have some semblance of sanity back in his eyes. Booth whirled on her chained companion. What did you just say? Booth questioned. He blinked rapidly, both confusion and intelligence returning to his face. I? Gates asked, wiping away the drool, his expression turning to abject fear. Booth placed her hands up, palms out. It's okay. You've been gone a while, Booth said in a soothing tone. What the fuck is going on? Rob asked. What? Gates asked, trying to back away from the group, then realizing he was chained to Dr. Booth. Dr. Booth. Peter. Where am I? What's going on? Gates asked, tears filling his eyes. Keep him together, Saul instructed, his instincts saying that the doctor was close to losing control. Bam Bam and Sarah secured him, Booth kneeling before him. I don't know what you remember, or how much, but the DarkStar project was a complete disaster. It opened portals into another dimension. The portals brought creatures that have completely destroyed the Earth. That was 8 years ago, Booth explained. Gates took in the information, both stunned and uncomprehending. That's not possible. This is some kind of joke, Gates said. Look around. Does this look like some fucking practical joke? Rob interjected. Gates was clearly overwhelmed. The planet is going to completely die unless we restart the experiment. I'm hoping that if we introduce the meteor shard during the energy transference, it should negate the entire process, Booth stated. You hope to halt the process? Gates asked, his expression clearing with each passing moment. I do. I've done the math, although I'm not really sure what will happen, even if successful, Booth stammered. Hey, this catch-up is all great, but maybe we could fill the good doctor in when we have this place firmly in our rearview mirror, Scott said firmly through clenched teeth. He's right. Samuel. We are in the most dangerous place on Earth, and that's saying something. We need to get this done and done quickly. This man here, Booth indicated Bam Bam, is going to fix the start capacitor on the main generator. Gates was about to interrupt, but was silenced by his former colleague. We know, and we've picked up the appropriate part. A story I'll be happy to tell you when we're gone from here. I'm counting on your help? Booth left that in the air. Gates was clearly out of his element, a response not coming. Get that chain off him, but keep him close, Rob, Saul said. Not a problem, the former ranger said, grabbing Gates by the shoulder. Scott eyed the lower deck. It seemed to sink in the very darkness. As such, it was hard to see. The silence made him edgy and anxious. Sarah, move us out, Scott said. They moved towards the only stairwell still standing. It was now a bent and twisted wreckage, held together with luck and nothing else. The ex-paramedic was the first down. Be careful, Saul called out as Sarah slipped, her foot losing traction as it touched down on some black, unidentified liquid coating, her hand lashing out at the very last moment and grasping a hold of the now rusted chrome railing. The ex-detective scrambling after her and grasping a hand before her grip failed. They climbed down in pairs, Scott helping Rob with Dr. Gates, the scientist still unable to come to terms with what was happening to him. What do you think brought him back? Sarah asked Booth as the ranger and Delta operator lowered Gates to the ground, the man collapsing to his knees and crying. I can't do this, he wailed. Yes, you fucking can, he grunted, pulling Gates to his feet. Where's the generator? Bam Bam asked. Booth looked around, the landscape on the floor completely unrecognizable. Using the meteor as her point of reference, she indicated the far wall on the east side. The biker was quick to take off in that direction, Saul by his side. What about us? Scott asked. But before Booth could answer, a low, grumbling laughter greeted them. The sound made their skin shiver and dread fill their souls. They all had their weapons raised, scanning the immediate vicinity. The darkness was so oppressive, even their torchlights had trouble penetrating it. The laughter continued. They followed it around the meteor, and what they saw stopped them in their tracks. A large figure draped in darkness sat on a grotesque throne before them. It was made from the charred bones of the dead, a skull at the end of each armrest, and thin bones that looked like ribs fanned out like a peacock from the headpiece. But its hellish design paled in comparison to the demonic being that casually leaned back in it. Even seated, the creature was well over 6 feet in height. The body perfectly formed and naked, it wore a face of masculine perfection and skin as black and smooth as obsidian stone. 2 long, looped horns protruded from its skull, similar to a scimitar oryx. 1 taloned hand tapped the armrest, the claw on bone sounding loudly in the room. Glowing red eyes regarded the group with interest, a smirk on its face suggesting the demon was anything but malevolent and intelligent. Identify yourself, Scott demanded. In any other situation, his demeanor and aggression would have elicited an immediate and passive response. The demon made no move, nor give any indication that it would reply. It just stared back with a gaze that could chew through titanium. If you can speak, I suggest you do before I unload a magazine into your skull and turn it into... Silence. The demon interrupted, its voice as cold and demanding as an Arctic snowstorm. Scott and the others felt complete and utter horror. It took all of their resolve to not drop their weapons and run. So, this is the last stand of humanity. What a great disappointment, the demon added. Sarah turned her gaze from the demon. Over its shoulder she could see a portal positioned several meters behind the throne. The last nightmare doorway she had seen was over 2 years ago. When they had first appeared, thousands of them had blinked into existence, and as they had spewed forth the denizens of hell and drawn on the earth's very power, then the portals had slowly disappeared, leaving behind monsters and creatures that defied understanding and demanded abject fear. As she stared into the blackness ringed by a circular sliver of light like an eclipse, uncertainty and panic gripped her chest. "I can smell your fear. It's intoxicating." The demon breathed in a seductive voice, its penis twitching with sexual lust. "Oh God," Gates groaned in terror. "Not even close." The demon chuckled and slowly got to its feet. Scott couldn't believe what he was seeing. As someone who before the apocalypse hunted and killed evil people for a living, he knew what he was seeing now was the ultimate predator. Every movement athletic grace, perfect muscles flexed and tensed, seemingly with very little effort. The demon was enjoying the effect its presence was having on the group. It felt despair and rejoiced. Saul and Bam Bam had heard the voice of the demon in the distance. They knew instinctively that things had taken a turn for the worse. "Should we return?" Bam Bam asked in a low, measured voice. "No, we can't afford to be distracted. I need you focused. You're the only one who can fix the generator," Saul replied. Bam Bam needed to hear that. He was feeling confusion and doubt. He didn't want this pressure or responsibility, but he also knew that the ex-detective's words were correct. His experience as an electrician was now going to help save the world. It was now time to do his part. "The others in your group are trying to stop me. They waste their time, and yours. This world is nearly dead, and so are you," the demon said seductively. "You'll have to forgive me if we don't just lay down and die," Scott said, the crosshairs of his assault rifle never leaving the forehead of the demon. "Who are you?" Sarah asked. There was another long, deep chuckle from the demon. "The last time I walked the grounds of this mortal plane, your ancestors were huddled in caves by lamplight. In the blink of an eye, you are now less than that," the demon mocked. "Answer the lady. Who are you?" Rob demanded. His question was met with silence, the demon's piercing gaze staring right through him. Rob took an aggressive pace forward, his own rifle raised. "Answer the question, fuckface." The demon's brow narrowed. "I've gone by many names over the millennia. Croat Oan, Basul, Astaroth. I've been worshipped, revered, and feared by the primates living here," the demon boasted. "It's taken you thousands of years to destroy humanity," Sarah growled back defiantly. "The end result is all that matters," the demon replied. "Yet, here we stand, ready to defy you," Scott said. "A lapse I'm about to rectify." The demon grinned. It then stopped and turned towards Booth and Gates. "You two are being awfully quiet. Now why is that?" the demon asked. Neither scientist responded. "I can smell it on you both, the guilt. Is it because you caused all of this? Or because you knew?" The demon queried. Their eyes were as big as saucers. As the demon was talking, Scott, Sarah, and Rob were slowly spreading out. They were tired of the talk and the games, the endless parade of freaks and monsters. This was the first creature any of them had faced with intelligent thought and the ability to converse, although there was no doubting its evil intentions. They were waiting on Scott's signal, the Delta operator ready and willing to do harm. However, there was a small part of his brain warning him that such a venture was foolish and liable to get them all killed. He wrestled with the dilemma, the matter lasting mere seconds in his head, resolved with the knowledge that they had no other choice. Scott's finger tensed on the trigger, carefully taking up the strain required to engage the weapons mechanism and deliver a lethal burst of 5.56 millimeter death. The demon's head swung around with blinding speed and smiled at Scott. "So, you've made a decision, have you?" the demon asked, matter of fact. Scott remained silent, so focused on what he was about to do next. "Excellent," the demon said. The already formidable talons on the creature's hands started to grow. "But before we continue, I feel I must pose towards you one question," the demon said, and fell silent. Scott twitched, his eyes going to Sarah, then Rob, then back to the demon. He sighed. "What? What's the question?" Scott asked tensely. "I'm so glad you asked. The question is, what if I wasn't alone?" the demon asked, and without further words. Movement all around them occurred. From out of the shadows, demons, monsters, and creatures appeared to come out of the very walls. Things like serpents, misshapen spiders, human shapes with faces like beasts, and others that defied description. They amassed around the survivors of humanity, salivating, watching with black, soulless eyes, hungry. The being known as Basul looked pleased. He regarded Scott and the others one last time, then hissed. That's when everything went from bad to worse. That seals today's tale in shadows. We hope Operation DarkStar has drawn you deeper into its enigma. Return soon to Crow's Quill's books, where the next chapter awaits, whispering secrets yet untold.